Hi, I'm Julia.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is What You Should Read,
the podcast where we should all over our books.
And welcome to episode 1. Yay! This is our very first episode of the What You Should Read podcast. We just wanted to make a podcast because we love talking about books, so we figured we might as well record ourselves doing that.
Exactly. We're going to talk about books anyway, so might as well put it out into the void and see if
might as well put it on the internet and see if anyone wants to listen. Right. So Rachel, what are you reading right now?
So currently I am reading, I was stuck for a book a couple of weeks ago, and I put a poll out on my Instagram stories, and my friends chose this book for me.
So, I voted in that poll. What is it?
The Gilded Hour by Sarah Donati. And it's a new author to me. The book is enormous. It is over 740 pages.
Wow.
So it's taking me a little bit to get through it, which is fine because I'm loving the stories. I love the characters. And it's set in 1880s. Like the Brooklyn Bridge is just getting built. It's set in New York City, and it follows 2 female physicians during that time, and one of them is a woman of color. So it's really fun, really interesting, has just a great story, great characters, like I said, and I'm loving it. So
you tend to read a lot of books that are really, really long. Like I think I see The Priory of the Orange Tree right behind you, and I remember you read that book. So is that something that you like to do, like get a really long book and just like immerse yourself in it?
I've been liking that more and more recently. Last year, I had a goal to read 120 books. I read 119 in 2019. And that was really fun to accomplish that. But I had a bunch of really big books sitting on my shelves that I didn't get to because I was like, I'm never going to read 120 books if I So this year, I'm just letting myself read long, slow books that I can just lose myself in.
It's a pretty cool flex. I read 119 books last year.
Everyone's like, of course you did.
Yeah.
So. How about you? What are you reading?
I have a couple books going right now. You know me.
Yep.
Commitment issues. So one of my first reads right now is The Fifth Season, N.K. Jemisin. Nice. And this one is, I've been meaning to pick it up for a while, but fantasy is not really my genre. So I kind of put it off, even though everyone was telling me, you have to read it. And they were right. It's so good. So for those who haven't read it, it is basically, this fantasy world, kind of I don't want to say post-apocalyptic, but almost dystopian future. And there are these people that are called origines, and basically they can control the earth. They can control the seismic shifts in the earth, and it follows these different characters in this world. And I'm only about 100 pages in, and there's so much that's happening, and I know it seems like we're on several different timelines, and it's all going to come together. But I'm really intrigued by all the characters and everything that's going on. So that one is really good. And then I'm also reading a nonfiction book called Creativity Inc. And that is the story of Pixar. I just dropped my phone. It's about Pixar and how they started and how they kind of work through problems. So we're reading it at work. My entire team is reading it, and it's actually really inspiring. And they talk about how failure is just a step in the process, rather than something to be afraid of. So I'm really enjoying it.
That's great. That sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
Those are both books that are on my radar. The N.K. Jemisin one I've had for about a year. I got it for my husband for a gift, the whole trilogy. And
he liked it.
Yeah, he loved it. He read all of them, and so I want to read them next.
I think you'd really like it because fantasy is definitely more your genre than it is mine, even though I do like it. But usually I'm usually not really into an entire new world. You know, sometimes that is just too much for me. I usually want to escape into a world that's more familiar, but N.K. Jemisin just does such a good job with world building that it's so good.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to talk about something that we are excited about in the world of books. So some book news. So Rachel, do you have an example or something that you're excited to talk about?
I do. And it's actually very apt that I'm talking about this today because our guest coming later would also be excited about this. So I'm a big fan of the show The Good Place on ABC, which just ended its 4-season run this year, and it's a really good show. And the creator, Michael Schur, is writing a book. And so Simon
Wait,
Schuster,
what?
yes, okay. So
I didn't know this.
Simon & Schuster announced their acquisition of the first book by Michael Schur, creator of the postmodern morality play and philosophical sitcom The Good Place, otherwise known as the best thing on television for a while there.
Right.
This is an article from Literary Hub. So the title of the book is How to Be Good, a definitive answer for exactly what to do in every possible situation. So obviously I'm really excited about this book because I love The Good Place and I want more from Michael Schur. So
that also sounds like a really useful book.
Exactly, yes.
I could use that.
Tell me what to do.
Yeah. As a Libra, I need this book.
So it says the book will use humor and philosophy to determine how we should deal with the large and small ethical challenges we all face every day. Schur will take readers on a journey through the 2,500-year discussion of ethics, explaining and poking fun at these grand ideas and sketching a roadmap for how we ought to act. So that is what I'm excited about.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it doesn't have a publication date. It says maybe next fall. So we have a while to wait, but
okay. Yeah,
it'll be worth it, I'm sure.
Oh, I want it now. And no, I'm definitely going to get that book. Okay. So my piece of book news that I'm excited about, and I think I'm cheating a little bit because you and I have already talked about this, but I'm just so excited. This is news about an adaptation that is coming to our screen soon, and it's The Babysitters Club.
Right.
Coming to Netflix July 3rd. So that's the news, is now we have an official date, and it's July 3rd, and I'm so excited. So it's going to be a 10-episode series based on the beloved best-selling book series, The Babysitters Club. So it looks so good. So first of all, Alicia Silverstone plays Christy's mom.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. If I wasn't already on board, that would put me on board, obviously.
Right. So she plays Christy's mom, and Mark Feuerstein, who was actually in the movie In Her Shoes, he played Toni Collette's love interest, which is tying into the conversation we're going to have later with Kelly Hager, our friend, about Big Summer. But he is going to play Watson.
Aww, Watson.
Yeah, so I'm excited because I feel like that's a storyline that clearly they're going to explore if those two big names are playing those roles.
Absolutely. I mean, that's definitely perfect because I definitely see he can play the kind of nerdy, geeky Watson that, just like, oh, my nerdy stepfather. I love it.
Yep. And the other thing that's so great about it is the girls that they've cast to be the main five. So Christy, Claudia, Marianne, Stacy, and Dawn. And they look so perfect for their roles, and they're all newcomers. So let me read off the actresses. It's newcomers: Sophie Grace, who will be playing Christy, Malia Baker, who's Marianne, Mamona Tamata, Claudia, Shay Rudolph as Stacy, and Xochitl Gomez as Dawn. So there's definitely more diversity in the cast than there was in the original series, which I'm very excited about.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So I'm so excited.
What a perfect thing to come out on a long holiday weekend.
I agree. I think I have that day off, which is perfect.
Same.
And that's also the day that Hamilton comes to Disney Plus. So,
well, I know it's summer, but I'm going to be inside all day.
me too. Okay, so before we get to our guest interview, we come to our segment that we are calling You Know What You Should Read. So this is a segment where Rachael and I are going to recommend books to each other that we think the other one should read. This might be difficult because Rachael and I, for those of you who don't know, we are sisters and we read a lot of the same books and talk about them all the time. So I was thinking it might be a little difficult for me to think of something that I've read that you haven't, but I think I came up with something that you'll love. So Rachael, you know what you should read?
What?
You should read The Rosie Project by Graham Simsian. And this is actually the third book in his series. So it's a whole series.
Oh, okay.
So The Rosie Project is about this guy who he's neuroatypical and he's super smart. He's like a scientist and he goes on this quest to find a girlfriend, but he's really awkward. So he has a hard time dating and he comes up with sort of a evidence-based model for dating.
Awesome.
So that's the premise. And then of course he meets a woman who kind of, throws him, into a tizzy because humans are not just cells. They're more unpredictable than his, he forces him to get outside of his box basically, but it's super funny. And there's 3 books in the series. And I remember you really liked that book, The Kiss Quotient. And I thought, right? Am I right about that?
I've never read The Kiss Quotient.
Oh, for some reason oh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. Well, I still think you'd like this. It's got a lot of humor. It's really fun. And it's a kind of a light romance, but it's got a twist. So
I just added it to my Goodreads.
Yay!
Okay, so I think I might cheat on mine. One, because the first one I thought to recommend to you, I don't know if you have read it yet. And if you have already read it, then I definitely have a backup. But I think I'm going to recommend both of them to you. So,
Yay.
You know what you should read?
What?
The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna.
Oh, yes. I know I should read this. I just haven't yet.
You should read it. So it's set in the 1970s. We open on our main character, Lenny. She's 13 years old. It's 1974. And she lives with her parents, and her dad is going through a really rough time. He has severe PTSD from the Vietnam War. He was a war prisoner. And he is just, there's a lot, definitely some trigger warnings for abuse. And they find out that he has been bequeathed some land in Alaska from the family of an army friend. I guess his army friend wrote home to his family about him. And so upon his death, his land went to Lenny's father. And so they decide to pack up their whole life, move to Alaska, really remote part of Alaska. And they're like, this is going to be a new start for us. We're going to be happy. Things are going to be good. And it goes through years of them trying to survive in the Alaskan wilderness and all the people they meet that live near them and help them, build their life there. And it is just an incredible story and very descriptive. And it's just something you can definitely get lost in. And I've thought of this for you because I'm actually discussing it with my book club on Tuesday. So I was sort of rereading it, not really, just kind of skimming through it. I read it a year and a half ago, but I still remember it really well. So I can still discuss it at book club. And yeah, I think you should read it.
It's on my list. I need to pick up a copy. I think my local bookstores will be doing curbside pickup again soon, so maybe I'll put it in order. Yeah.
Yeah. I can also just send you my copy if you'd rather.
Oh, perfect.
And then I'm going to reach behind me at the bookshelf because I thought of this, we were talking about
the suspense is killing me.
I know. We were talking about how fantasy isn't always your genre, because you don't always like being introduced to a new world.
Right.
So I thought this fantasy, I think, is really up your alley, because it does exist in our world, and then there's just like a kind of a hidden world within our world. So,
that's what I love.
Yeah. So the book is The City of Brass.
Ooh, okay. By
S.A. Chakraborty, and it's set in, I want to say, it's set in Cairo and during the Ottoman Empire, and it follows our main character. Her name is Nari, and she kind of works as a con woman. Like, she swindles people for money by pretending to do like seance type stuff, and she is, during one such events, she accidentally summons a real jinn, and he comes and takes her and like helps her escape the city because she's being chased by all of these creatures. And they travel to this land where all of these, it's called Davabad or Davabad, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and it's basically a city behind a brass wall, so City of Brass, and where these 5 factions of jinn live sort of in harmony, not really, and there's like one faction that is, in power, and she gets caught up in all this court intrigue and politics and, just kind of class warfare also, because there are, jinn have also married humans, and so there are some that are sort of hybrids, and so those people are considered lower class, and it's just very interesting. There's a sequel that came out last year that is even better, and the third one is set to come out this June. So City of Brass, definitely, I think you should pick it up. I think you would really like it.
That sounds really interesting, and I'm also super impressed with all the details you were able to remember about both of your books, even though you read them a while ago, because with mine, I was like, I remember this book sort of, and I remember really loving it, and I think Rachael would too, but I don't remember all the details, so.
Books that I really love, I tend to really remember details very well for some reason.
Yeah, you're good. You have a good memory. Okay, well, I will definitely put both of those on my to-read list. Thank you. Yay. So now we are going to talk to our friend Kelly about the book Big Summer by Jennifer Weiner. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have Kelly on the line. And we are back. We are with our friend Kelly, and we are going to be talking about the book Big Summer by Jennifer Weiner. So hello, Kelly, and welcome to the podcast.
Hey, happy to be here.
Yay, thank you for joining us.
Yes, I have my pandemic vest on. So if this is on YouTube, that's why I don't have a face.
That's fine. That's fine. I think we're all sort of living in this time frame where it's day sweatpants and then night sweatpants.
Right. Yes.
So Kelly, tell me, what did you think of the book Big Summer? I think we all got it in our book of the month boxes for May.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I liked how it has the themes that she usually covers, like the friendships among women and body issues, but it also felt a little bit darker than her books tend to be, and I very much enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. She doesn't usually go quite as dark as she does in this book, and I will say that we are probably going to spoil the ending a little bit. So if you don't want to hear that, we'll put a timestamp in the notes for the show that you could skip ahead to. But yeah, it did seem like kind of trucking along as a typical Jennifer Weiner book for a while. And I thought I knew where it was going. And I thought it was going to be all about the friendship or the lapsed friendship that she had with her high school best friend. And then the twist definitely caught me off guard.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Same.
I sat there when I turned that page and read that. I sat there with just my mouth hanging open and just like stared into space for probably 2 minutes. I was like, I was not expecting that at all, which is great.
Okay. I guess I should read a synopsis of the book before we get too far down the road. So let me find it on Goodreads. Probably should have prepared ahead for this one.
It's the first one.
Yeah. So
we're on this journey together.
The #1 New York Times bestselling author of The Nothing Short of Brilliant, Mrs. Everything, returns with an unforgettable novel about friendship and forgiveness set during a disastrous wedding on picturesque Cape Cod. 6 years after the fight that ended their friendship, Daphne Berg is shocked when Drew Kavanaugh walks back into her life looking as lovely and successful as ever, with a massive favor to ask. Daphne hasn't spoken one word to Drew in all this time. She doesn't even hate follow her ex-best friend on social media. So when Drew asks if she will be her maid of honor at her society wedding of the summer, Daphne is rightfully speechless. And that's kind of the beginning of the Goodreads description. And then it goes on to say how Daphne is no longer the same self-effacing sidekick she was back in high school. She's built a life that she loves, including a growing career as a plus-size Instagram influencer. Letting Drew back into her life is risky, but it comes with an invitation to spend a weekend at a mansion in Cape Cod. And then it says it's a sparkling novel about the complexities of friendship, the pitfalls of living out loud and online, and the resilience of the human heart. So that description totally does not convey a huge part of the book, which is that it is, spoiler alert, a murder mystery.
Yes.
Yes.
So I could see why, Rachel, you were staring off into space when that part happened, because I don't feel like it was, I'm glad it wasn't revealed at all in the description. I'm glad I was surprised.
Same. It was definitely not a pleasant surprise, because obviously it's a horrible thing to happen to someone, but it was like, wow, like a whole new approach to reading this book after, the first 100 or so pages.
Yeah. Kelly, were you surprised by the twist as well?
I was. It was a very, I was reading, and then it was a very Chidi Anagonye, like, wait, what?
Oh, we were talking about The Good Place earlier, Kelly.
Without me?
Well, Rachel found out that Mike Schur has a book coming out.
Yes.
I'm so happy.
Yes, Simon & Schuster. The book title is How to Be Good, a definitive answer for exactly what to do in every possible situation.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to pre-order that as soon as I am off this call.
Yeah, same. But yeah, back to Big Summer. So the main character is Daphne. She is a young woman who is kind of building this career as an influencer, and she's a plus size Instagram influencer. And the book kind of goes back and forth in time to talk about what led up to this career for her. And so Kelly, I guess I'll start with you. What did you think of the character Daphne?
I really liked Daphne. I liked her evolution throughout the book, although most of that was from before, when we heard about how she was in college, but how she has all this confidence now, and it's, not perfect. I don't think any woman I know has 100% perfect confidence, but she does really well, especially given that she has a body that is not considered conventionally attractive, and she has shut down most of the self-hate that I would have expected.
I agree, and I like how you see the shutting down of the self-hate on the page. Like, you see how her mind will automatically go there to the negative thoughts, and how she shoos it away, and how she'll redirect her thoughts to a different perspective.
Yeah,
I agree, and you're right. Like, no one has that perfect confidence, and I thought it was just a more realistic representation of a woman who has gained more confidence, but still has those inner thoughts that are her enemy sometimes. But like
right.
Rachel said, she has these coping mechanisms that she uses to sort of reason with herself when those thoughts come up, which I thought was a really well done plot device. And I like that this character, you know, she wasn't perfect. She definitely had her flaws. She's definitely selfish at times. And she's definitely a good friend at times and a bad friend at times, especially to her roommate, Darcy.
Oh, love Darcy.
Love Darcy. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a kind of a classic Jennifer Weiner character, but also she was clearly exploring a younger character in this new Instagram world, which I also thought was very fun.
Yes.
So what did we think of the character Drew? Kind of the antithesis to Daphne.
I feel like we all know a Drew. And I think, honestly, the thing I loved most is that we saw why Daphne would want to be her friend. Mm-hmm. We also saw why it's not necessarily, and I guess spoiler, even though we've already talked about it, but we've also seen why her death is not necessarily unexpected, because she's a pretty horrible person.
Yeah.
But I like how the tragedy of her death is that she would never have improved.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't know that she would have. She probably wouldn't have, if we're being honest. But, you know, now we'll never know.
That's a really good point, that she did have the potential to improve, right? Because we saw glimpses of her being more down to earth at times, right. Like when she goes with Daphne and Daphne's dad on that food adventure.
Oh, I love that.
I love that scene. And at the end of the day, you just kind of see how Drew doesn't have that in her life. So she is really kind of jealous, but also appreciative that they included her. So anyway, you see that there was the potential, but yeah, the tragedy is we'll never know, because she was also pretty bad.
Yeah.
She definitely was just used to being able to manipulate the situation to go her way, no matter the consequences, because there were never any for her until the very end. But, you know, and even when she thought she was doing things for others, oftentimes it was a means to an end for herself.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that, you know, we did get a few glimpses of her potential and her, if not trying to be better, then at least trying to, when she could, step out of that role that she was playing for who she was, trying to live up to expectations from her parents and from society, and just trying to kind of live her life on her own terms. And I think if she were able to do that more, then the goodness could start coming.
Yeah.
Right.
Agree. What about the love interest in the book? So we have Kelly, this character comes into the book and introduces himself as a Stephen King character name. Can you remind us? I can't remember now what it is.
It was Nick Andros, and it's so funny because I don't remember his actual name. I don't remember Drew's fiance's name or the secret guy she was dating. I don't remember his name, but the fake name was Nick Andros, and I was so proud that I caught it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
before the rest of us that it was a name.
And it turns out that his real name is Nick, but his last name is not Andros. That's just a cover.
Right. Yeah.
So Kelly, what did you think of the Nick character?
I'm not really a huge fan of what they call insta love, and I didn't really like it here, but I liked him more than I would have because he picked a Stephen King name to go by. So that was fun. Yeah. And Nick Andros is not a villain. It's worth pointing out. But
was that a hint to us maybe that he was not a villain in this book? Spoiler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And at the same time, I was really happy that good things were happening for Daphne, because she deserves fun. She deserves good sex and fun flirting.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't really like insta love, but good for her anyway.
Rachael, I would say, I don't know if I agree that it was insta love. It was definitely insta lust, but they definitely fell in love quickly, right? Like yeah. I was annoyed by the end how they were planning to move in together.
Yes.
We've known each other 3 days.
But they did go through something pretty traumatic together. So I do understand that can bond you pretty quickly to each other. I don't know. Rachael, what did you think of the Nick character in that whole plot line?
I went back and forth on him a little bit. Sometimes I was like, oh, I'm enjoying him. I'm enjoying the chemistry and the relationship between him and Daphne. And other times why are you here?
Yeah.
So, sometimes I just felt like he didn't really add that much to the story. Other than, it was nice that Daphne had a little fling.
A little fling, yeah. I definitely didn't trust him, and I felt like he was being a little bit manipulative of her in the beginning, even though it turns out he did really like her. But it just seemed like he was trying to get information out of her.
Right.
Or try to get into the house because he grew up in that house. Right. So, but yeah, all in all, I thought he was fine, but I was way more interested in her friendship with Darcy. I wanted more of that.
Yeah, same.
Darcy,
Kelly, yeah. Go ahead, Rachael.
No, it's okay. Darcy was definitely an interesting character because she was another one that I was like, I hope she's not the killer, the whole time. That would be too much. But I did like that it was a little bit of a question, but not for Daphne. Like Daphne never expected it, I don't think. She, whoever, I think Nick is the one who brought up, oh, how convenient she was in Boston. And I was like, Nick, come on. And I'm glad it didn't end up being her. Although that probably would be pretty interesting. But I did like her. Sometimes I felt like I wanted her to be a little more supportive of Daphne, while at other times I just loved her sarcasm and how she just didn't take any crap from anybody.
Yes.
Yeah, Kelly, you said you really liked Darcy as a character.
Yes. Pretty much everything that Rachael said. I thought a lot of times it seemed like she was almost saying what the reader could be expected to say, like, why are you doing all this stuff for Drew? She was awful to you all the time. So I do kind of like when you have a character who's clearly a stand-in for the audience.
Yeah, she was definitely the voice of reason character in the book, and kind of set Daphne up to make whatever decision she was going to end up making. But I was also really glad that she wasn't the killer, although I was still kind of disappointed in who the killer ends up being.
Yeah, same.
I really think it should have been Nick. I really think it should have been Nick.
Yeah, that would have been great. Yeah, I don't think they set it up enough that it was, the person who it was, because I was like, oh yeah, I guess, but I don't believe in how Daphne came to the conclusion that that's who it was. It did not feel real to me, but
yeah, it was a bit of a stretch, maybe. I don't know. Kelly, what did you think?
I would agree. It's also a little disappointing that the real villain is competition among women, because I'm sure it's a thing that really does happen, but in my experience, no. All the women I know are nothing but supportive of each other, not necessarily people that hold grudges to such an extent that they would, change their names and their appearance and hold this grudge for years until they can finally perfectly engineer it to murder somebody.
Yeah.
Right. And
I admire the commitment, but
yeah, it was kind of sad that it was, a woman of color who owned her own business that ended up too. I was kind of, I don't know, but it was a creative, I guess, plot line, but I agree. It was just so out of nowhere almost. And yeah. But I feel like there were a lot of themes in this book that were pretty resonant of a Jennifer Weiner book, even though it had this new element of a murder mystery, which I don't think we've seen that from her before.
Yeah, it definitely, yeah, it was a classic Jennifer Weiner, storyline, the way it was structured. Well, at the same, I mean, I think she had one sort of murder mystery book. What was it?
Was it Goodnight Nobody? I don't think I read that one.
Yeah.
Nobody. Yeah. And where like a housewife tries to solve a mystery. She used to be an investigative journalist, I think. And then there was another book that there were a couple of her books have focused on drug addiction, which were really kind of pretty intense topics, and I thought she handled really well. But this is definitely, I think, the first kind of this kind of dark theme that we've seen from her.
And Little Earthquakes, didn't one of the babies die? It was like 3 new moms or something, and I think one of the babies died. So I guess saying this is really dark for one of her books is kind of a inaccurate statement, because I guess they're pretty dark after all. But
yeah, she definitely does a lot of hard-hitting themes and topics.
Right.
I mean, Mrs. Everything, I just loved Mrs. Everything so much, but that
Me
dealt
too.
with a lot of really tough stuff.
I think Mrs. Everything is definitely her best to date. At least it's my favorite.
I would agree. I would agree.
Though it's still hard to choose because she's written so many, and I mean, she's written classics. Like I reread Good in Bed earlier this year.
It's a good reread.
It holds up. I was like, oh, I'm wondering how much, I remember, reading it forever ago, and how the main character's body image issues were put on the page, and I was like, I think she did okay with it. And then I reread it, and I'm like, actually, yeah, that was a lot better than I would have thought.
Yeah.
A lot better handled for being what did it come out, 1999, 2000, something like that?
I think so, somewhere around then, 2000, 2001 maybe.
And while she was doing a great job with it back then, I feel like I feel like she's just gotten better and better. And actually, I was wondering if you guys mind if I would read a passage from the book.
No, absolutely.
So from Goodnight Nobody. Sorry, no, Big Summer. We were just talking about Goodnight Nobody.
I'm sorry, that's my fault.
No, it's okay.
I got in your head.
So this is page 17, and I was crying reading this. But it says, for all women, or maybe just all plus-sized women, or maybe just me, there's a moment right after you put on a new piece of clothing, after you've buttoned the buttons or zipped the zipper, but before you've seen how it looks, or rather how you look in it. A moment of just sensation, of feeling the fabric on your skin, the garment against your body, knowing here the waistband pinches or if the cuffs are the right length, an instant of perfect faith, of pure, untarnished hope that this dress, this blouse, this skirt will be the one that transforms you, that makes you look shapely and pretty and worthy of love or respect or whatever you most desire. So I just feel like it's so true that, especially with living in this world where we are constantly just bombarded with images of people putting their best selves out there, like on Instagram, and she talks about it in the book too, and she talks about, oh, I need to put out some more posts of me not being perfect because I don't want people to think that my life is perfect.
Yeah.
But we do still hold on to that, like, gosh, if I just, if I just get the right outfit, maybe I'll, do better at work or find the right person for me or, make more friends. And gosh, I think it was just so beautifully written in that paragraph.
I agree.
Yeah, she has such a great way of articulating the inner thoughts of being a woman She does that so brilliantly, just putting on the page and reflecting back how we feel and the pressures that society puts on us or that we put on ourselves. And I thought it was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, do we think that this book will be a movie?
I hope so.
A movie or like an HBO miniseries or something.
Oh, yes. A Hulu miniseries, kind of like, or HBO miniseries a la Big Little Lies.
Mm-hmm.
I would be fine with that.
Yep. Even like Good Omens I just watched. That was 6 episodes. That would be perfect.
It is totally perfect for that kind of, because it has a mystery, so they can get through it till the end. Oh, yes. Please, please, please. Putting it out to the universe. Okay, well, I actually looked up some Jennifer Weiner factoids, some trivia, so I thought I would tell you guys what I found out. So I always think of Jennifer Weiner as being from Philadelphia, but it turns out she was born in Louisiana, which I didn't know.
I did not know that either.
Seems kind of random. So speaking of movies, so the film In Her Shoes, starring Toni Collette and Cameron Diaz.
Love that movie.
It's one of my favorites, yeah.
It's such a good movie. I think we can all agree Toni Collette was not believable as a plus-size woman, but she is brilliant, so we love her. But originally, she was supposed to play the character of Maggie.
What?
And do you know who they had originally cast as the character of Rose? I don't know if this is true. This is Wikipedia, but
I'm gonna guess Kate Winslet.
This is from IMDb. Nope, not Kate Winslet. It's Sarah Michelle Gellar.
What?
Buffy?
Wait.
I think I just died.
So this is from IMDb. So obviously could be true, could be totally made up. But yeah, I could not see that. I think that would just doesn't make sense. So anyway, Gellar dropped out and then Collette agreed to play Rose instead. It just
doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense at all. And then I thought it would be interesting to just talk about Jennifer Weiner and her, she's kind of been this cultural influence in terms of women's fiction. She wrote in 2010, she told the Huffington Post, I think it's a very old and deep-seated double standard that holds that when a man writes about family and feelings, it's literature with a capital L. Mm-hmm. But when a woman considers the same topics, it's romance or a beach book. In short, something unworthy of a serious critic's attention. And I mean, she was really vocal about this for a long time and still is, but I think really she got a lot of flack for it at the time, by men and women in the industry. But it's clear she's had an impact, and the New York Times Book Review definitely reviews a lot more fiction by female writers now. And I don't know, what do you think of that? I think it kind of gets to the whole, that books that women like are serious.
I think that's definitely fair. I don't think it's fair that she's gotten flack, but I definitely see why she would, in that she is a woman who does not keep her mouth shut, which seems to bother a lot of people sometimes. I'm glad that she talks about it, because it's definitely true. People call books like hers chick lit with kind of a sneer and like a tossing aside of it. But I mean, as we've said, she talks about really important topics, like what happens when you have a baby and that baby dies. Like, how do you keep going? It's not just like it's not just Daphne and Nick, meeting and hooking up. There's all this other stuff going on too.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think she did a lot to really champion books by women and for women, and Yeah, I love Jennifer Weiner. Any final thoughts about this book, Big Summer, Kelly?
Not about this, but fun fact. So Jon Stewart and his wife, their daughter, I think her name is Maggie Rose. And I remember emailing Jennifer Weiner and being like, I think this means they're In Her Shoes fans, right? And she actually wrote back.
Really?
So in my mind, we are best friends.
Of course.
And she agreed that they must have been In Her Shoes fans.
Aww.
Tell your best friend Jennifer Weiner we'd love to have her on the podcast.
Yes.
I will for sure bring that up. I'm sure we can make that happen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so easy.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Kelly, for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Great.
I look forward to subscribing.
Yes, you were our first guest, so.
Yay.
So that has been the What You Should Read podcast. See you next time.